I'm the Managing Director of Service Excellence Consulting, which is the entity that manages that program, and I have with me Julie Mills. There's another question that we got earlier on, which was that workers need to work in a safe work environment, of course, but as recruiters we have no influence over the work environment where they're working, where they've been placed. We have a clause in our contracts clearly stating this. So what does iSafe do that this doesn't already cover?
Just because you've got a clause in a contract, you cannot contract out of your obligations. I'm not a lawyer, but if one thing's been drummed in my head over workers' comp, all of these things, contract law, all of these things, you cannot contract out. So you do not have control over the site. But as I said earlier, you have a responsibility to make sure that wherever you are putting that workforce, the workplace is safe, and that the systems cover and even indicate or include contractors in the actual in their actual policies and procedures. Again, Dianne and I have discussed this at length. There are so many of our client sites who talk about work health and safety for their workforce, their direct employees, but they do not anywhere mention that they've even got contractors on site. And there's a story I tell which happened a long time ago in another role where there was an employee on site when there was an incident and everyone was evacuated from the building. This employee was a deaf mute, and he had fallen into a cavity when this building was being evacuated, and because he couldn't call out, because he wasn't registered as a contractor anywhere, because most people who were rushing out of that building had forgotten all about him, he was there for 4 hours, totally distressed, before he could actually be moved from the site. Now, this particular person was my brother, so I do know that this story is true, and the damage that did to him, he never worked again. More importantly though, it was because there was no policy or procedure for checking the contractors. They knew how to check their staff, but they didn't have anything in place for their contractors. And that, I won't name the rest of that story, but that was a horrific story for our family to live through. But it really, really highlighted that point to me, and this was a white-collar workspace. It really highlighted to me the risk that you have if you do not do those things correctly. And again, I can't reiterate enough. You don't have control, I 100% get that, but you do have control over making sure that you've at least done the checking. In the regulations, it actually says, and many of our members are now insisting on this, it actually says the site needs to be assessed before you actually put anyone on site. Now, for many of you, that's very challenging. What iSafe does is deliver those assessments to anybody who's on the program. So if you happen to be going into a site that's already assessed and you're part of the program, you have access to that, so you can make that call very quickly about whether or not. Also, very early in the program, and this will be my last point on this, but early in the program we had a very small recruiter who had a team of contractors in a client site. The assessment was done, and the assessment was so poor that the recruiter pulled those contractors out, didn't want to take that risk. That hasn't happened again, and that's only one-off time, but it just demonstrates it is your business decision and it's your business risk, and I think you need to manage that.
Absolutely. And there's been quite a few situations in the iSafes that we've conducted more recently where we have seen those high risks and something that has needed to be done